Hey, what's up guys? So if you've watched any of my previous videos, you may have heard me mention that I have a manifestation journal. I just wanted to start sharing these stories with you because I think it's very helpful for people who are just starting off on this path, or even just people who have been on this path for a while, to hear success stories. I have now it's up to about 300 things on my list. Sometimes like 3-4 different things manifest in one day. And I mean, they're not always big, but they are things that I have been meditating on, etc., etc. So I'd like to kick off this very first manifestation story series with how I manifest more clients or students for my business. I own and run a music school out here in Southern California, and currently we have somewhere between 80 and 100 students we have right now. The school started off in 2009, and I was teaching piano since about 2004, 2005, so it took me about 4 years of private teaching to actually start my business. The reason why I actually started the school was because I wanted to have more time to work on music. Back in 2008 or so, I was privately teaching piano. I was doing piano lessons in people's houses. I had amassed about 50 students of my own. And so I was working not that much still, even with 50 students. We were doing mostly half-hour, 45-minute lessons. So I was working probably about 20 hours a week, I would say, and getting paid. At the time, it was like $70 an hour was my rate. It was nice to get so much income in without having to work that many hours, but I wasn't really doing what I truly wanted to do. Didn't feel like my life purpose. I decided in 2009 to start a music school because, number one, I was getting really burnt out. Some of these students, they're really young, and some of them need a lot of guidance, and little kids sometimes really take a lot of energy to kind of reel them in. Every time I got home from work, from teaching, I would teach from about 3 in the afternoon to 7 o'clock. When I came home, I was just completely wiped out, that all I wanted to do was turn on the television. It really sucked the creativity for my music out of me. So I started off with just me, right? I was still teaching piano. I would say for probably the first year, I don't exactly remember how many students outside of the ones that I was teaching myself that the school had, maybe like 3 or 5, but I started meditating. So in 2009, I already had some experience with meditating and with changing parts of my body, but I had never really done too much meditating on external things, meaning things that are outside of my body. So I didn't have much experience with that, and didn't have much, if you want to say, faith that I could do that. So basically how I started meditating was I would lay in bed, and in the morning, before I got out of bed, I would put on my headphones, I would listen to music, and I would lay there and meditate. I would first do a little meditation on my body that I was working on, and then I would spend like the last 5 or 10 minutes of that meditation meditating on having more students. And I tried a bunch of different things, different like visualization techniques, and imagining that I had more students and stuff like that. But after a few months, it really didn't do anything. It was even like a year into it, and I still wasn't getting anywhere. And I didn't have any guidance. Nobody taught me how to do this, so I had to kind of figure it out on my own. I had read a lot of books, and some of them had some techniques in them, but it really wasn't anything concrete. So one day I decided, when I was laying down in bed, because I remember everyone talking about gratitude. You should feel gratitude, and feeling gratitude is all you really need to do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just give gratitude for all of my students. And so I started doing that. I have this Excel spreadsheet with a list of all my students on there, first, last name, and address, and all that stuff. And it's for for finance purposes. So I would go down this list in my head and literally say thank you for first name, last name. Next one, thank you for first name, last name. Thank you for first name, last name. Go down all the students that I had that were with the school, including the ones that I was teaching, because I was grateful for those too. I would reach the end of my list and then I would start it over again. And it was a task in the beginning when I started doing this. Literally, it wouldn't really do anything until after I had spent some time doing it, maybe like a few minutes, like 5 minutes getting into it, and then towards the end I would start feeling some gratitude, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, now I feel some gratitude. Okay, awesome. I did this for a little while, and it still wasn't working too much, but I was starting to feel grateful for my students. So I decided one day that I would lengthen the meditation. So now I was gonna devote like 15 minutes to this whole manifesting more students meditation. And so what I did was, again, do 15 minutes on my body, and then the last 15 minutes I would do on manifesting students. And then I would go down the list again. After about, like, I'm halfway through, like 7 minutes into it, 8 minutes into it, sometimes 5 minutes, I would actually start feeling gratitude. And that gratitude would just start flowing. And I would just feel really good. And I would feel like, wow, after going through all these students' names over and over and over and over again, it seemed like I had 100 students. And so I was like, oh man, look, I feel like I've got like tons of students right now. And so I would do that for a while. I don't know if it took like a month or something for my first time for results to start showing up. But I started noticing that every time I had a good meditation, and consecutively for a few days, I would start getting these like little signs. Someone would tell me that, oh, we told our friends, our neighbors that you're a great piano teacher or whatever, and they should be calling you soon. Or I have this little inquiry form on our website. I would get like a lesson inquiry from there. And I have to say, always, the first few signs of students coming in almost never were a sure thing. It was always like, so-and-so is going to call you, but they never call. Or somebody sends an inquiry and I write back to them and they don't respond to me or something. I would say like 90% of the time it happened that way. It would be like the first wave of students that would start coming in would not sign up. At first it kind of frustrated me. I was like, okay, is this working or not? I mean, I'm doing the work and like it seems like it's working, but then it's not. It's like, is this like false hope? Is this like a broken down process where it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't? But I was like, okay, you know what? It's worked with my body, so I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna keep doing it. So I would keep doing it. Sometimes I would wake up and I would think about meditating and I'm like, oh God, I gotta go through this whole thank you list again. And it seemed like a chore to me at first. But then every single time I did it, after about 5 minutes into it, I started feeling that gratitude. And it felt so good. And then after every single time I finished meditating, I would think to myself, wow, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I made myself do it. I started doing it in the evening too. I had already been meditating an hour for my body. And so I added another half hour onto it, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. So it was 45 minutes and 45 minutes. And so I would just get into those modes of gratitude. And the trick for me that I discovered was sometimes there were students that I had that I did not feel so good about. Maybe I felt like maybe they were gonna quit or something. If I didn't feel good about it, and it would take me out of that gratitude state because I wasn't so sure about them, I would skip them and I would just find those students that I really, really felt grateful for and appreciative for, and sometimes just keep focusing on one or two families and just be really grateful for them. Like, wow, they're wonderful families. The kids are great. They're great students. I could see them staying with the school for a long time. They're dedicated, they're motivated, they're talented. Those are the kind of students that I want. They pay on time. So I would really focus on those and just really cultivate the gratitude from the students that really stood out to me in that way. After getting into that gratitude mode, I then would start imagining getting phone calls from people, getting voicemails from people, getting the lesson inquiries from people. And I would just kind of see them pile up in my inbox. They actually go in my junk mail, so I'll check my junk mail and I'll see, I would imagine seeing all these phone numbers in there because they leave their phone numbers, so I can call them back. A pattern started developing, and it turned out that every single time that I would meditate, and I was able to have consistently good meditations. So it probably took in the beginning about 3 weeks for the stream of students to start coming in, but it would probably take about a week or two for me to start getting signs of students coming in. This is kind of how it's worked with everything that I've manifested in my life. It always kind of starts off with this like slow trickle, where you hear of somebody who might have a friend that wants to take lessons and maybe I'll give them your name or whatever. It always starts off with something like that. Or in the past and recent past, students that have quit may call me up. It's always kind of out of the blue. It's like, okay, like I didn't expect that. And then those lesson inquiries start coming, and they'll start coming like one, skip a couple days, another one, and then a couple other days it'll be like two. And then like the more I meditate, the more will start coming in, and until like the steady stream comes in. One period of time when I would get 9 lesson inquiries in one day, and I would have like 30 students signing up for trial lessons in a matter of like 2 or 3 weeks. And I could always track that back to when I was meditating, because what I would do was I would meditate, and then students would start trickling in, and then there'd be a steady stream, and then I would always got to this place where I felt kind of overwhelmed. I was like, okay, this is good for now, and I would stop meditating on students. And then literally, just as they would trickle in, they would start to just fade out. It would become less and less and less and less, and then it would just stop. And when I don't meditate, literally for like 2, 3 months, 4 months, I'll get like maybe 2 students sign up. If I'm feeling abundant with students, because I've been meditating, then the students start flowing in. And once I've had enough and I stop meditating, sometimes I'll start going back to that fear of, oh, well, what if the student quits? Feeling sometimes worried or anxious about having enough. Sometimes I will go back to some sort of variation of that pattern. Maybe 1 month I spent a lot of money and I'm like, ooh, okay, I need to make sure that my income is consistent next month, and then I just worry a little too much about having enough money, and lo and behold, students would start taking breaks, and then I would start having to meditate again, and then it would take a little while for that meditation, that momentum to build up, from that belief to come back fully, where every single time I would think about my business, I would feel fulfilled and I would feel good about it. I know it's taken care of, everything's wonderful, I got tons of students, everything's fulfilled, etc., etc. I started to realize that when I was able to hold that vibration, that's when things would just start flowing. Like last week, I got like 10 inquiries within like 2 hours. Not all of them signed up, but still it was just an amazing experience to be like, oh wow, 10 people hit me up for lessons in the span of 2 hours. I no longer teach since 2014, actually, that I stopped teaching. So it took me about 5 years to build up enough student base for me to completely stop teaching myself. We have about 80 to 100 students, which is not a whole lot, but it's enough for me, and it's enough for me to be able to stay sane. I only work about 4 hours a month with this business. I take about 4 hours every month. I have to do payroll and I have to do invoices. So those just like some financial things. I mean, obviously I do emails and stuff and text messaging, but everything adds up to about 4 to 5 total hours of work that I have to put into this business now. And I like it like that. I love it like that because I have the opportunity to do other things, to work on music, to make videos, to spend time with my parents, to travel the world, all that stuff. I've always been a late riser. I used to wake up like at 10 o'clock. Now it's like 9 o'clock. I would literally wake up at 10 o'clock and then I would meditate for like an hour. Sometimes I wake up at 11 o'clock and I would meditate for an hour, and so I wouldn't roll out of bed until like 12 o'clock, sometimes even 1 o'clock, depending on how late I ended up going to bed. And my mom used to be like, what are you doing? You're getting up and like half the day is gone, and she would give me a hard time about it. And it's funny now, she lays in bed and she meditates. She understands that when I'm laying in bed meditating, I am doing my work, that is my work, and that's how I get all the business that I have. I have advertised once through Yelp, and it was like a ridiculous like $200, $300 a month. That didn't last very long, but even when it did last, it didn't bring in anything whatsoever. I did Google Ads a couple times. That did nothing either. I printed out flyers. I hired somebody to go door to door to put flyers on people's doors. I maybe got like 1 or 2 students out of maybe like 500 flyers that I put out. Nowadays, how I manifest more students now is instead of I don't no longer go over that list of names in my head. There's just too many now. But now I just know that feeling of gratitude is the catalyst for that. And as long as you hold that feeling of gratitude and you feel fulfilled about whatever it is that you're working on manifesting, in my case, that my business is full and that it's running at full power. Sometimes I'll still pick out some families that some clients or students that are very big accounts, like some accounts there's like 4 kids per family, and they're all taking lessons. They're all taking like 45-minute lessons, so it's like close to $1,000 every month. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna meditate on that. Wow, I'm like so grateful for those. Thank you for that, universe. And I'll just feel that gratitude, and then I'll just imagine that gratitude is for having my business completely just filled out, and then they just keep coming. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this story and gained some insight on some methods that you might incorporate into your meditation practice, your manifestation practices. And please feel free to comment below if you have any methods of your own that you'd like to share. Also, if you have any questions, you can also leave those in the comments. Hit that thumbs up button if you like this. Share this video. And as always, I appreciate all of you. And together we are going to create a new planet and transcend this old paradigm of living and transform this planet into a planet of abundance in all ways. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.